Hi gang, it's Paul here. Just wanted to do a little video on YouTube and follow up to the TikTok I did today called Christians, We Have a Problem. I like to do something a little bit longer on YouTube to give a little more insight. First, let me say hi to my newest patrons on our NPE Patreon page. You can help support what we do here, spread the message by joining us on Patreon, get in our private NPE Facebook group. If you join at the $12.99 level, you get an autographed copy of my novel, Joseph Comes to Town When the Religious Right Goes Religiously Wrong, and some other fun and cool stuff. So thanks to Ashley Heffley for joining. Thanks to Terry B., to John and Heather Gardikas, to Marlene Parker. I think I still owe you a book, Marlene. If I do, let me know. Charles Schuler, I think I sent you one. Let me know if you got it. And Lynn Ann Beverly, thank you for joining. Thanks to Ashley Heffley for upping her pledge. And then I have another $5.99 pledge by somebody who didn't put a name on their account, but whoever you are, thank you. Thank you very much. So my TikTok was Christians, We Have a Problem. And here was the premise of the TikTok, that in the last few days, over the weekend and into this week, we had Wisconsin do a recount. Donald Trump paid $3 million for a recount in Wisconsin, and all of that money came from very average income people like you, not from Donald Trump's pockets, from just regular average people like you. But in that recount, Wisconsin found that Joe Biden's lead actually got larger by about 87 votes, I believe it was. A big price to pay to find out you're farther behind than you thought you originally were. So once again, Joe Biden has again won Wisconsin. In Pennsylvania, a Trump-appointed judge, hear that, a Trump-appointed judge threw Trump's people out of court and excoriated them in what he wrote afterwards, saying, "You didn't bring me anything, not a shred of evidence that would cause me to even consider throwing out an election." He said, "Are you guys crazy?" And what we're seeing is Trump's lawyers do press conferences and events, and they say all these things, but when they get into court and they have their bar membership on the line or even prison on the line for saying something false in court, suddenly the truth comes out that they have no evidence of widespread voter fraud. So Biden's going to win Pennsylvania again. Arizona certified their election today. So once again, Biden has won the election. Guys, elections work this way in American history. Any other election in American history, we would already have a concession and we would know that the outcome of the vote was settled a long time ago. The only difference in this election than any other is that we have Trump involved, and he is still lying and saying he won the election, and there are people that believe him. And that's my question, Christians. Why are we still believing that story when it's clear? It's clear that Joe Biden has won the election. Why are we saying, well, the prophet said Trump's going to have a second term, so therefore something miraculous is going to happen and overturn this thing? How did we get here? In 1 Kings chapter 3, this is something that God's been putting on my heart a lot this week. Solomon is about to take over the throne for David, who has passed away. And he has this dream and he sees God, and God says, "What is it that you want, Solomon, as you're taking on being king?" And Solomon says this in 1 Kings 3, verse 7. This is the second half of that verse. He says, "I am but a little child." Now, he wasn't a child. He had already married some women at this point. But what he's saying is metaphorically, I don't have the wisdom to lead these people. I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen. And he talks about how huge the country is and the people that he has to lead. And he prays this prayer in verse 9. "Give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil, for who is able to govern your great people?" Excuse me. And God says, that's an amazing prayer right there, Solomon. You didn't ask for safety. You didn't ask for prosperity. You didn't ask for your enemies to lose and you to win. All of those were very common kingly prayers. But instead you prayed for wisdom and discernment. And I'm so pleased with that prayer, said God at that point. I'm going to give you all the other stuff as well. What are Christians asking for in their support of Trump right now? They want low taxes. They want Wall Street to be high. They want Israel to prosper and the embassy be put in the right place. They want the Supreme Court, the laws, to support their belief system. And God is saying, I think in this day, stop praying for those things and praying for abortion to be banned and gay marriage to be banned and gays to be put in their place and our religion to reign through the land. And I think God is saying, stop praying for that stuff and start praying for wisdom and discernment. And I'll bring the other stuff into line that I want to bring in alignment with me, because I want you to pray to be in alignment with my heart rather than demanding I come into alignment with yours. We don't know it. I don't think we're totally in touch with the fact that what we really want is the status quo, and we're concerned that the status quo may be being overturned, and we don't understand, just like the Pharisees didn't understand, that maybe status quo isn't God's goal in the season. And so God is saying, pray for wisdom and discernment that your heart will come in alignment with mine. Otherwise, you're going to be like the Pharisees and not have eyes to see or ears to hear. Romans 12:2 told us, don't be conformed to this age. Some people like to say that as world, but it doesn't say that. It says, don't be conformed to the aeon, to the era that you're in. I think it would be translated today, don't be conformed to your bubble, your media that you watch all the time, that link that came from your sister's cousin's friend's dad that's telling you don't believe what is obvious reality in front of you about the election because some prophet is still saying it's not true. But let your heart come into alignment with what God wants for the season. And God may be saying status quo is not where I am, people. And status quo being overturned makes us scared and uncomfortable, and we start fighting for, give me a prophet that tells me status quo is good and okay. And God says, no, pray for wisdom and discernment, so that Romans 12:2 would say, so that you'll be transformed by the ongoing renewal of your mind. So what? So you can know the good and perfect will of God. Jesus told the religious guys, hey, you take away the keys to knowledge, and that ticks me off. And then he mocked them and said, you can look at the sky and know the weather, but you don't know the signs of the times. I think he would say to our prophets today, you look around you and you're seeing all these circumstances and you're making a judgment through what you think you're hearing from heaven. But what you really are doing is seeing the sky. You're seeing what's temporal and you're prophesying out of it. And what you're saying is flat out freaking wrong. And my people like it that way, as it says in Jeremiah 5. Pray for discernment and wisdom like Solomon prayed in this season. And then you'll be transformed by the renewal of your mind so you can know what God's will is for the season. I don't believe it's God's will for Trump to have a second term. It may have been, it may not have been. But he allows us to choose. And the people have chosen Joe Biden. And whether I'm for that or against that doesn't matter. That is the reality of what has happened. He's won the election numerous times over, and again, it's been proven. And why can't we as Christians believe that? I think it's time for us to evaluate why we keep going into this. When I was a kid, the conspiracy theory was Henry Kissinger is the Antichrist, and so the Soviet Union is Gog and Magog, and here they come, and it's end times. And here we are again today, having been proven wrong then, and proven wrong again, and proven wrong again, and proven wrong again, being told Hillary Clinton's going to be in prison for pedophilia in 2018, and proven wrong again. We still believe the conspiracy theory. Why? Why? Because we're conforming to the bubble we're in, and the pastors and prophets are creating that bubble by teaching from the platform that we are to vote Republican and handing out conservative voter guides and saying God cares about banning abortion more than he cares about anything else. And we're getting conformed into this mindset, this groupthink. and we're missing the good and perfect will of God for the season, which is to say sometimes the status quo that we're comfortable in has to be overturned so we can really see the face of God. And I believe that's the season we're in. And I think we should be okay with that, because if we're discerning what's really happening, we say, okay, God, you're overturning what we've always known so the millennials and Gen Zers can lead us into something new. Isaiah 43 says, can't you perceive that I'm doing something new? It's springing up. And in Isaiah 6, he told Isaiah, go tell the people you're going to have eyes, but you're not going to see. You're going to have ears, but you're not going to understand what I'm doing. And Jesus called it the leaven of the Pharisees. I think we need to evaluate why are we so susceptible to these conspiracy theories and start to say, God, is that where you want us to be? Because I believe if we start to ask God for wisdom and discernment, he's really good and he'll give it to us. And we'll start to see truth. And we won't sit around wondering why that crazy Paul guy is telling us, stop it, evangelicals, stop it. Okay? So I pray that prayer over you. Wisdom and discernment in the season. I love you guys. Thank you for those that are on the Patreon page. Go to the website, npepodcast.com. Click on that Patreon button. Follow me at Old Pastor Paul on TikTok. I do some fun things on there all the time. Love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.